The work is always going to be you with you. The relationship that's most sacred and important is always going to be you with you. And we teach there's nobody nicer to be nicer to than you be nice to you. So if you're at a place like some of these people I've been encountering lately who are so sick and tired of being where they are, it's really a good thing. You know, and then where I like to step in, if I can, when I'm hearing that, is offer them to go to the Tuesday night class that we teach, which is about self-healing, loving yourself. We're coming to class. And embark on a journey in relationship with the most important person in your world, which is you. Years ago, I went to a Science Mind service in Fort Lauderdale, and the one song I kind of liked, the old song that I liked, was they always sang "How Great Thou Art," and that was an old That was an old song. I don't know what Christian denomination it came from. It doesn't matter. But they weren't singing to God above. They were singing "How Great Thou Art." Guess who you're singing to? You. You know. So the article that we're talking about now, that was presented a few years ago, goes on to say that divine content, where you want more, you want to experience more, it's normal. You're in the express business. You're here to be expressing life, hopefully dynamically in a fun way. Fun, and more what? Fun. And if your life isn't exciting, how come? Many of you are too old to remember Betty Davis, but she used to say, "What a pity." Well, what a pity. I mean, because my God, you don't have to be experiencing despair all the time, right? But you've heard it, I'll date myself, Annie Main, that life is a banquet. And most poor people are what? They're starving in a world where there's a complete banquet. I've known people in my life that, oh, I'm bored. There's one thing I've never been in my adult life, I swear to God, is bored. That is something I can't relate to ever, because I might feel I'm dealing with pain and anguish and excitement and a roller coaster, but it's never, ever been boring. If you were alive and awake in your own life, it can't be boring, because there's always something there to deal with, to contend with, or to be happy about, you know. So this article proclaimed, and I guess I'm saying it once more, you absolutely, I know, but you may not know, I know you deserve more. Everybody in this room deserves fantastic things. But you're approaching the ocean of life like everybody is, with a receptivity that's unique to you. Louise Hay, in her book, You Can Heal Your Life, would ask the question, what are you approaching the ocean of life with? I used to think about that. And if you've read her book, she'll say, some of you are approaching the ocean of life with a thimble. You know what a thimble is? Have you ever seen it? I hate that I know what it is. Some of you are approaching it with a shot glass. You know what that is? I know what one of those are. Contains an ounce and a half. Some of you are approaching the ocean of life with a coffee cup, or a basin, or a large container. Or some of you are walking and approaching the ocean of life, and you can imagine every cell of your body connected with the givingness of life. And when you're an inlet and outlet of everything, it's good, because you have such a capacity for receptivity. You don't approach like, I only deserve this. You have a consciousness of knowing you're one with it all, and you're plugged in. And as doors close for you, you say, well, you know, one door closes, there's 1,000 more that are opening for me, not just a couple. See, that kind of consciousness can never be stopped. Other folks with other consciousness will say, oh, poor me, and ain't it awful? I lost the job, I lost the love, I lost this, and they did that to me, and poor me, and ain't it awful? That's kind of probably the way a lot of people work. But if you have the consciousness that I just attempted to describe, they can take it all the way Or you'll, by virtue of your consciousness, set something up where it's all taken away, but you really have an abundant consciousness, so guess what happens to all that's taken away? It all will come back, but it will come back better. Because what happens is life is about change. Emerson said it's volatile. It is. I don't like that part of it sometimes. I'd rather have it be solid. There's nothing about life that's as solid as I'd like it to be. So, I can accept that today at my age, but I didn't like it when I was younger. Because it seems like the universe is always reshuffling the deck. It took me years to get this idea that the things that are happening in life are not happening to me, that they are happening for me. And I know that's a tough thing to sell to you, but it's a place you ultimately get to, I think. You know, if you want to have a consciousness that's light and loving and good and affirming, you'll understand what Science of Mind teaches. You're always in the perfect place at the perfect time. And if something is disappearing from your life, thank God. You know, it is. Because I would natively want to hang on to whatever it is, probably. Even when what I'm hanging on to is clearly probably not so good for me, but it's what I know. It's what's familiar to me. And so I'm going to hang on. And so, how do we go from a place where we have a lot of attachments and we hang on to stuff, people, relationships, jobs, situations, behaviors. We hang on to an awful lot of stuff that does what kind of good for us. Too much, right? So, I'm the person who did not learn everything through inspiration, right? I learned a bunch of stuff through desperation. I didn't do everything because I saw the light. It wasn't inspiration, it was desperation. I might have done it because I felt the heat, not because I saw the light. But whatever gets you there, you know, learn the lesson, you know, because it's brought you to a higher place, right? So the point of this article is, whoever you are, whatever you are, everybody here deserves more than what you've done. And what you've done, we don't want to criticize what you've done or where you've been. Maybe you've been in a relationship for 13 years and it's been tough. And you might say, oh my God, I wasted 13 years of my life with this person. I must have been out of my mind. Why did I do that to myself? You know, I've done that before. And what was I thinking? And when you do that type of stuff, then you're just beating yourself up for something you've done. And that's a trap too, right? Because whatever you have done through all of those years, months, moments, has been absolutely necessary to bring you to the place of understanding that you are right now. So if you are occupying more than a nanosecond of your day lamenting the past, what are you doing with the present? And I know a lot of people live in the past, and they ruminate over the past. If only I had done this. I did that with Leslie over a couple of situations. And it's really not very life-giving to do that. Does anybody else do that? You know, if only. I wish I had. It's a form of self-criticism. It shuts you down. It takes away your joy. So, you can do it if you want, but it's not life-giving, right? So if you notice that you're doing that to yourself, what might you do? What could you do if you find yourself, you know, just caught in like this warp of thinking? And because I've learned through Science of Mind and Louise Hay that my feelings will follow my predominant thoughts. Okay, so if I tend to be an optimistic thinker, you know, the unsinkable Molly Brown, the person who, you know, whatever is happening, I'm going to find the upside of down situation. If you're a person who is committed to seeing the God, the good, the good, the God, guess what you're going to see? You're going to see the God, the good. It's just, this is what we train ourselves to do. It's work. It really is work. It's work for you to step aside from the people in your world that are thinking a certain way and repeating a certain set of stuff and to be the only thinker in your mind. It's a challenge for you to see the God, the good, all the time, but the benefits of learning to see this way are enormous. You know, you literally open up channels in mind and good if you learn how to see. The law of seeing we talk about here. If your commitment is to see the God, the good, it's just, you can't even imagine what you're opening up for yourself. 33 years ago, when I encountered a 12-step program, I encountered a very wise man. And he said to me, Greg, everything's perfect. And I thought, it doesn't look perfect. It doesn't feel perfect. All the toys and things I had, the relationship, the money, the cars, and now I'm in a one-room place and I'm serving food. And I'm being told that it's a Cape Cod. Reinventing myself again. Yeah. And I'm got this crazy person who's telling me everything's perfect. And then I started to, well, you know what, I'm going to work with it. Everything's perfect. Then we did that for a season. And I would be in some strange situations saying everything is perfect. And then I would start to laugh. And you start to let go. And then you start to see the God, the good, because you're training yourself to see that everything's perfect. And it will start to show up. In contrast, if I kept on thinking that everybody's out to hurt me and life is not fair and poor me and ain't it awful, guess what happens with that mentality? You then have the proverbial Chicken Little consciousness. You're walking around with a cloud. The sky is falling, and it will fall. Need Adele singing "The Sky Falls." It will happen because that's what you carry with you. So there's power for good in the universe. Ernest Holmes said you can use it. Well, you are using it. Not only can you use it, you are using it. So your life is reflecting what is your consciousness in this moment today, here, this Sunday. As it has been reflecting your consciousness each and every moment of your life. You look to your life and you say, hey, this is who I am. Whatever's playing out right now is a reflection of me. Now, if you love it, then love it. And if you understand it like I do, you say, okay, well, I see that I've done a lot of things really wonderful, it's great. But the thing is, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that I'm not really particularly thrilled with either. And I can't expect, name the people, to change, because they're not going to change for me. The only power I have is over what's going on in my own mentality, my own consciousness. So if you change that, if you be the person you're seeking, then the thing starts to reflect you. If you're about wholeness, integrity, and goodness, and support, and love, and peace, if that's essentially who you show up being, that gets reflected everywhere in your life. I challenge myself these days to have the willingness to go and cut out, almost like a surgeon would, a growth. If it's there and it's negative and it's working against the greater good in my life, I really don't want to run from it. As Leslie will attest. As soon as it's identified, spotted, made known to me, I really want to, this is not a dress rehearsal that we're living. Nobody here is living a dress rehearsal. This is your very life, and your life is beautiful and important. And if you're taking a second-class place in your own life, then why? If you're waiting for your ship to come in, you're waiting for the kids to go to college, you're playing that game, that is a game that really won't take you where you want to go. So, one of my teachers years ago said there's nobody nicer to be nicer to than you, and there's nobody, you need to get excited about who? Yes. Excited. Learn to love yourself. Stand in front of a mirror and give yourself that Louise Hay, I love, accept, and approve of you exactly the way you are. And then you might say, oh my God, look at my wrinkles, and look at my body, and look at this, and look at that. And then you say to yourself, cancel. Stop that negative what? Story, chatter, love you, every part of you, everything you see and everything you know about yourself, and just say, listen, you've done the best you could with what you've known, and you will do more, and you can do more. I love, accept, and approve of you. That's the message of Louise Hay. Louise Hay would also say, self-acceptance and self-approval are the keys to everything, the keys to all positive changes. Self-acceptance, learning to love the self. When you really, really, really love you, then it all starts to work. When you really, really begin to take care of you and honor you, then you're not going to do some of the things you've been doing. I'm going to tell you that. They're going to be suspect to you. You're going to know better. It really is a process of reminding yourself. The article went on to say you deserve more. Once you realize you deserve more and you're holding yourself, I deserve a better life and I deserve better experiences, you'll begin to have it. The movie The Secret, a film which I said was sweeping the world, now I'll say that swept the world, probably 3 years back, right? You'll see scene after scene after scene of enactment of people focusing on things, and then there's a materialization of the good in the movie. What you think about, what you predominantly think about, comes about. It's another religious science slogan. And whatever you think about, predominantly think about, if you're a positive thinker, it has a tendency to show up in your life. It almost magically is brought to you. The universe responds to the tape or the message that plays inside of you. So I know Leslie, she's got a bunch of tapes, and most of them are positive and they play out. So Leslie's life is what it is. I do what I do and it plays out. If you are a person that you find yourself talking about anybody else and blaming anybody else for anything really, check that out. Just check it out. Because the truth of the matter is you're creating somebody to be something. Okay? And I language it this way. We have lots of stories about people. And my story about you might be I knew you from 6 months ago and I have this perception about you, and then I've already got an idea that you're this. You might have been that in that moment 6 months ago, or you might not have even been that then. It might have been me tripping about something that I was perceiving 6 months ago. But you're certainly much more than whatever that perception is. So what I want to be doing with people is realize each and every encounter is a what? A holy encounter, a divine encounter. And hopefully I can approach each moment, with a fullness and a knowledge that, I don't know anything about it. From the Course in Miracles, they have an exercise, and they use a coffee cup, and they'll say, I don't know anything about this. And all the meaning and any meaning this has is what I give to it. And yet people have ideas that this person is that, and they fill in the blanks. And good luck for that poor person coming into your world again, and you never have a chance because you've already decided what? Who it is, what it represents. And then it's like, we do that. We do it. It's not really pretty, but we do it all over the place. I'm going to be very redundant. My dad, I learned a lot. Called him, he's now deceased, one morning. He said, I heard the most brilliant thing this morning on, I think it was Good Morning America. A famed Jesuit author was asked by the anchor, what do you attribute your knowledge, your success, your vast success to? He says, well, I wake up each and every morning and I have one prayer to the God of my understanding. Is that for this one day alone, that all prejudice be removed from my mind and my consciousness and my heart. Everything I think that I know about anything, may it be removed, so I can approach each moment free and seeing potential. And the God, the good, is there. I mean, look at our own selves. Look at how much, you hold information. Hold ideas about people. And wherever we do that, we're obscuring the light that's really the truth of them. And we're not really giving them a second or a third chance because we've already decided. One of my greatest teachers when I was much younger was Krishnamurti, who talked about the veils of perception. That we have a bunch of veils, so I'm seeing all you through my veils, as you do with me. And then he says communication is almost impossible because everybody's communicating through all these layers of perception. So where do you begin when you realize, oh my God, communication's cloudy, and I have a lot of baggage. Ernest Holmes says we carry around a lot of pieces of corpses. Today I'll say dead wood. I don't like corpses, but the dead wood that we carry around is preconceived ideas, right? It's the stuff, and yet we call ourselves metaphysicians. Isn't that interesting? How can we call ourselves a metaphysician when we carry around so much garbage? What is a person who claims to be a truth student or a metaphysician? What do they do? They're here to see the good in the truth. Okay, the truth is that we're all interconnected. There's one spirit, one life, everywhere present. In all. There's not a spot where God is not. Anything you could conceive of, God is that. God is everything. We don't teach duality here. We don't teach good and evil, powers for devils, and we don't teach any of that. We teach one power operating through you, as you. It's always, as Emerson so eloquently said, wooing you. In your quietest of moments, it's wooing you. It's encouraging you to be a greater expression of what it is and you are. And so that's one of the reasons there's a little divine discontent, because we know when we're letting ourselves down and we know when we're plugging in. We don't need to be punished by anybody because we punish ourselves when we're off track. So there is that divine disconnect that's always wanting us to connect and to get out of the story as soon as we possibly are aware. And then you'll say, my God, Greg, you don't know how negative I am. I'll say, oh yes I do. I have a version of it. And I don't know that you eliminate it totally, but what's the practice of a practitioner of religious science? When you see that you're in negativity, what do? Do you beat yourself up? No. My teachers over here said, just notice. When you see yourself, you're there. Please don't beat yourself up once you realize you're in a story, but do what with that story? I'd like to quote, the only thing I like to quote about Ronald Reagan was one saying he used to say, oh, there you go again. Well, when you find yourself telling yourself a doozy, in other words, my generation say you're tripping, right? You're tripping about something. When you find yourself tripping in some crazy story, say, oh, there you go again with that nonsense. And then just bring yourself back. And just say, okay, I'm going to create this situation to be perfect. I'm going to create this person to be perfect. I'm going to understand that he or she was doing the best that they could with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. And if the person you're being down on happens to be yourself, all the more reason. You say, okay, Greg, or whoever yourself, oh, okay, so you did something that wasn't particularly intelligent, so you did the best you could at the moment, and you will do better, you'll do more. We're about trading in lesser ideas for greater. We're also about switching up the dialogue that we're having with ourselves. Because our internal dialogue is going to be mirrored in our world. In fact, our internal dialogue is what our world is. Your awareness, the word awareness is synonymous with consciousness. Your awareness, your consciousness is the very thing that creates your world. Okay? So you can look to the world that you live in and just take a little scan of all your interactions and people, and then just say to yourself, okay, I have created this. And then just try to be a little bit honest. Do I like what I have created? Do I like the relationships? Do I like the way it feels? And if you really can say yes, that means you've probably done some work, so that's good. But even those of us who've been working on this a long time, there's aspects of what we've done that we're just like, geez, I'd like to see some change here. Then if that's the case, don't go to them to change it. That's the old way of doing it, right? Go within yourself to change it. Because the power is with you, right? And you can change anything. And all of the universe supports that kind of activity, because you're here to learn about oneness, you're here to learn about life, you're here to learn about interconnectivity, and that's your lesson. Your lesson isn't here to change them. Your lesson is to come and enhance you, and to be everything, the clearest channel you can, and the greatest expression of the truth that you're able to be. All of those people who show up that we want to make it about them really are our teachers. We brought them all in, and they're all teachers to us. So don't condemn them, please. They're there helping you by being whoever they are, whatever they are. So, as Louise Hay would say, all is well in our world. And you know how great they all are, and I'm not here to change them. I might have tried doing that in the old days. I'd bring out my books and proselytize and hope they, that isn't what we're here to do. We're here to work on ourselves and celebrate life. And I'm going to tell you also, as you begin to do that, more and more people start to get you. They start to understand there's something about this person that's attractive, and they're onto something. You'll teach far more by being that than you ever will be going out there and trying to control, manipulate, or have them behave. Because I've learned the hard way, people don't what? Don't behave. Just don't. They do what they do. So, the article went on. Maybe, possibly, we will at last realize as we look at these old tapes and behaviors that we have been awake but dreaming, and we know that we've had a lot of it wrong in our life. The good news is it's never too late to see things in a new way. You may recall Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. Does anybody know it, or am I the only one? Okay. The most famous section of his autobiography describes his scientific plan, his science of mind, his scientific plan of self-improvement. Benjamin Franklin lists 13 virtues that, if practiced one by one, week after week, and in being totally committed to that process and seeing yourself as kind, good, generous, all the positive attributes, if this was his 13-week plan, seeing yourself in these ways, you become the person that you are seeking by practicing being that. Emerson wrote, assume a virtue, if you have it. Just take it on and begin to be that. I went on to say, I invite you to think today of a God and of a world that responds to your belief about either. I invite you to conjure up a process, a God that responds to your belief about it, a world. In your thinking and believing, as Emerson taught us, aim high always. It doesn't hurt you to be generous in your thinking. It's just the opposite. Your friends might think you're deluded. The suggestion is aim high, shoot for the stars, see the God, the good. Don't descend into those places where you're doing it awful with people, because it's not going to take you where you want to go. Resist the temptation to see only the challenge. Resist the temptation to see the problem of the day. Resist the temptation to see yourself as disadvantaged in any way. Again, resist the temptation to see yourself as disadvantaged in any way. Right? Know that peace, joy, and contentment can be yours, and that you are supplied. Health and prosperity are available to you also. In being committed to seeing life this way, you will be inspired and you will be reborn to see all things anew. And I close this article from the Dr. Seuss book, which is here. If you learn to see life that way, oh, the places you will go. And so it is.